Welcome to Dropped In, Cheryl. I'm so excited to welcome you to the Dropped In community.
I'm so excited to be here. Oh my goodness.
I would love to hear who you are, what you do, and why you are obsessed with it.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Cheryl and I use they them pronouns and I won't be mad if you forget or mess it up. It's just the way that it is right now. So I've recently coined myself as the queer mystic who's autistic because it felt way too long to try to cram in everything that I do and am and all of the things that I be into a bio. Like even my bio just felt like word salad that I give people so that someone can frame of reference me. But what I do is I help high masking, high achieving creatives and entrepreneurs who are so good at what they do in their business or so good at what they do in their art, but they feel like their life is falling apart. I help them like have compassion and self-belief and let go of made up rules because we spend our entire life observing life and patterns and trying to be undercover in them, and it's so exhausting.
Mhm.
And they're like, why is everything so hard? Because your brain doesn't know how to filter out irrelevant data. Let me help you. And so I do that primarily through pocket coaching, which is voice and text based coaching. It's just so much more accessible to people who are like already out of spoons for the day.
Oh, that I love that. I love that. I want to drop into what you do, but I also want to. You said something very impressive, and it really struck out. So you go by the pronouns they them, but you won't get mad about it. So let's hear about that. I would really love to drop into that into that first
Okay,
and foremost.
beautiful. So, for a long time, I was part of the activism community as an autistic person. My justice meter is very high. And there's a lot of people who think that there's a right way and a wrong way to do pronouns. And bless them, I love them. There's a reason that is that way. I learned being in women's spaces, a lot of the time I feel really comfortable in those spaces. I love sisterhood, I love sister circles, but I've never really felt I'm a girl or yeah, I'm a boy. And I've learned that it's actually quite a common autistic experience now that I'm on the other side of deep dives of self study. But I also learned that I could just decide not to be offended by people who don't know me at all. How are you supposed to know, first of all, who I am and how I like to be addressed if you don't know me? And then where am I creating like graciousness, invitation, and thinking the best of others by getting activated, triggered, offended, and wounded every time someone makes a mistake? Like it felt incongruent with me that
Mhm.
my whole shtick is like bridging capacity and allowing people space to make mistakes and be a learner, but I wasn't affording that to people when they address me. And then it felt like I couldn't belong anywhere and I was othering myself based on this idea of if people get my pronouns wrong, they don't respect me. If people get my pronouns wrong, they don't understand me. If people get my pronouns wrong, XYZ. And I also know from teaching anything that how many times do we have to learn something over and over again before it becomes truth? It's like we need thousands of repetitions to become a
Mhm.
master at a new skill. But when we learn that new skill in play, it cuts it down to 25, sometimes as low as 10. So if I can make it fun and easy and cheeky to learn my pronouns, then it's no pain for anyone involved.
That is brilliant. I love that. Now, have you received any pushback or any feedback that hasn't been supportive for this? May I call it a movement?
Yeah, sure. I'm fine with that. I think one of the nuances that I've found is that a lot of folks who have a hard time with they them pronouns don't understand the evolution of human language. Like they're not nerds about English language the way that I am. I went to school. I have a bachelor's degree in creative writing and like literary criticism and poetry and stuff. And before that, in a past life, I got a bachelor's degree, call it a past life, in biblical studies, which we spend a lot of time doing textual criticism and learning about translations and stuff. And I know that not all languages and not all cultures even have pronouns in their language. So I'm just already less attached to that. But I like to think of language in a way where it's just to be understood. Like, if you understand who I am and I understand who you are, the rest of the details are a little less important to me. Where I get pushback from is from folks who have been taught very legalistic ways of interacting with people and what's polite and what's rude.
Mhm.
And also folks who are stuck in more works based frameworks. And it's not one specific group, it's not one specific belief system at all. I find the older generation of folks get it a lot more than people my own age, even. But I personally haven't had a lot of pushback in the way that I deliver it. I've had some people say things, as long as you don't like think I'm a bad person if I don't use them. I'm like, okay, but why wouldn't you want to call someone what they want to be called? If your name is Megan, wouldn't it be annoying if I just called you Steve all of the time? That would just be annoying. And it's so easy for me to not care why you want to be called Megan and not Steve and just believe you.
Yes.
It's like if I reinvent myself and I change my brand name, there's going to be some people who just always call my brand what it's always been. And then there's going to be some people who jump on board. So, like in the community that I live in, there's a mall up the street and it's called Harewood Mall, except it's not. It's been called University Village ever since I moved here. But there's people who live here who still call it Harewood Mall, and they will forever call it Harewood Mall. And I laugh because in where I'm from, outside of where I live right now, it's not even a mall. It's just like a little bunch of businesses. Like a mall is a building you go into and you walk around in it and you're protected from the weather. It's not like you have to leave every single business to go into it. So even that, those semantics, but are any of us wrong? If you understand what I'm communicating and
Mhm.
I understand what you're communicating and there's mutual respect, that's more important to me than the semantics.
100%. 100%. So let's reframe that question. So, for individuals or folks who identify as they, them, is there pushback or feedback that you've been receiving for your movement towards that?
A little, because there's a lot of people who are very legalistic. And I think the reason is because they're on the front lines and they are on the front lines of people who are violently in disagreement of respecting who they are and how they want to be referred to. It's just like when you get married and someone still calls you miss and they do it in a way with a tone of disrespect. It's
Mm-hmm.
less about whether or not they're making a mistake and it's more about the disrespect. So there are some people who believe that if you do not make the effort to practice and know how to refer to someone you claim to care about, then you're being disrespectful. And I can understand why they would think that, but I do believe that life is a lot more about the gray area and allowing people their own time and their own blossoming and their own understanding to get to another point.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was in Bible college, I still use she, her pronouns. I was super not gay. And I was going to be a single missionary forever because that's all that was available to me. Because I didn't want to get married to a man. And I had undergone conversion therapy, which was not a nice time. And I spent the last 10 years like deprogramming from that, not being allowed to be myself. And there were a lot of very patient people who allowed me to slowly unpeel the layers of the legalistic conditioning that there was only one right way to be a woman, there was only one right way to be a man, and that there was no other thing in between them. Except there is. There's there is, like, you can't ignore it. Whether or not we understand it, you can't ignore that there is a difference, and so I had a little minty bee, complete unraveling of myself in 2013. I got fired from a missionary organization I was in because I was trying to be someone I wasn't. And the invitation of the friends that I've had in the last 10 years who just allowed me to be whoever I was at any given moment while gently questioning the very firm things that I believe to be true has informed how I approach this conversation with other people. But I have had to remove myself completely from like nonprofit societies and stuff. And because I don't find room for nuance on in frontline activism for people like me who have chosen to be the bridge between one way of being and another way of being. There, I don't know that I would say that there's pushback so much as avoidance.
Okay.
I just don't get invited anymore.
Okay.
And I like choose not to make a big deal about that.
Wow. Good for you. Okay. So, how specifically is there that avoidance piece?
I used to get invited to all of the pride activities. I was on all of the planning committees. I was doing all the things. And then when I started talking about inclusion as more of a witnessing the diversity that exists in nature and in the cosmos and in like the law of abundance and infinite supply and infinite possibility and applying that to humanity, a lot of people got really upset about that because they're still stuck in the framework of everyone has to live by the exact same rules. There has to be a universal truth that is always true, no matter what. And I've just lived so much life that I know that's not possible. Like, it's just not possible for every single human on the entire planet alive in 2025 to agree on every single thing. So, at what point am I going to stop making other people wrong for things, making myself wrong for things, and just finding the people I'm most aligned with right now and focusing on and more acceptance and more welcoming and more permission to not have every single answer all of the time.
Mm. Truth right there. I got some shivers. So that's good confirmation. It's just such an honor to know you and I'm going to call it a movement because it is a movement of what you're creating because I have not received this type of conversation or seen this type of perspective to date.
That makes sense because I used to get in my head about it and be like, why isn't anyone signing up for my stuff? Why isn't anyone buying my things? And then I realized because once again, womp womp, my 5-1 generator self is 10 years ahead of the conversation. This is something that's happened my whole life. And I used to get really resentful that I was like the bushwhacker with a machete in the jungle. And now I'm like, oh, I'm an explorer. This is fun.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just follow this thread and see what happens. And the more that I share about it from like a zoomed out perspective, the more free people get to be and the more free like
Yes.
women get to be, the more free men get to be. Because if gender expression is totally made up and self-defined, then we all get to be however we want to be that feels the most like us without anyone else being wrong. In
Yes.
my opinion, if you are not actively causing harm to other people or intentionally harming other people, live your life. Go
Yeah.
for it.
You are giving me so much oxygen. It's like just this is such a really potent and powerful conversation. And I'm just going to share vulnerably here. So, my past version of who I was a nurse. So, with that, I'm highly trained in being trauma informed, Kundalini yoga, highly trained. Like, I've taken additional training and studies in being trauma informed as I have within my coaching. And there came a time where I would come into different spaces where if I didn't know what to say properly, like one time I said in a group coaching because I didn't know how people identified. I was going to say souls. And I was like, what if they don't identify as souls? So I didn't say that. And then all of a sudden I was like, I'm so grateful to be here with all of you beautiful women. And I got like hardcore, like
Mm,
chastised. I was like, oh, and I went down the shame spiral. And I was like, and first and foremost, I actually spoke up in that space because I was like, what I shared is that because it was a huge group of people. I said, I'm trusting the space to use my voice because this is something I'm working on. And as soon as I said that, I said, ladies, and I just got cut off. I was like, oh, and I just went down the shame spiral. I was like, oh.
yeah.
So then I just won't say anything. Right. So that
Hmm.
it's really unfortunate because if you know me, I have purest hearts, like the purest
Yeah.
intentions. Right. So I think what you're doing is revolutionary. So thank you.
And I was afraid I actually had to block some of my like close friends who are frontline, like they do diversity, equity, and inclusion training because I got in my own head the same way. I got in my own head the same way and was like, I can't talk about this way because then I'm invalidating all of the very important work that they're doing that I'm still learning from. And then I realized there's room for all of us at every stage, and all of the roles are necessary.
Mm.
So, what a diversity, equity, and inclusion teacher does on the corporate level, at the tourism level, at the government level, at the public education level, is they're educating people who are still in the rules based framework how to respect people who are different from them and giving them solutions and vocabulary and safe spaces to practice it and what to do when they make a mistake. What I don't love is how people who are unwise to their own triggers, their own unhealed stuff, project intent onto someone else's mistake. I can't know whether or not you saying ladies to a room full of people who culturally and socially look like the way you've been raised to perceive women. We're not there yet culturally where a visual idea doesn't mean a gender. We'll get there, but we're not there yet. So expecting everyone to do that is unfair. So one of the things that I love to use as an example is my coach has this women's in business event. People come from all over the world. I'm perfectly safe to be there, and I'm not the only queer person in the room. But I had to choose going in that I belong there and that I'm not going to go into a women's space and tell them that because one person who isn't a woman is in the room, they have to edit all of their talks. Like I'm going into their space. It's not like they're coming into mine.
Yeah.
I'm going into their space. One of the things that I love to do when I get asked this question is say, how about you start at your talk at the very top and you're like, okay, I recognize not every single person in this room is going to have my experience. And I would love to invite you to swap any gendered language that I use for how you would use it for yourself so that I can stay in the zone and deliver my heart without getting all worried in my head that I might make a mistake because I'm really good at what I do and I'm not really good at inclusive language yet, but I'm working on it. So
Right.
if you can give me the grace to be a work in progress, we will have an excellent session today.
Yes.
And then it becomes their responsibility to manage their own stuff. So, like, I don't go into women in business groups unless I'm specifically invited because I'm not one.
Right.
Like, I'm just going to be triggered the entire time. I block people on my social media who trigger me, not because I'm mad at them or I don't like them,
Yep.
but because it's unfair of me to expect them to change everything about them because I'm not healed in that area of my life. And so I tried to apply that to gender theory and it got really weird and I had to work through some stuff. And at the end of the day, I think there's room for all of us because I'm in a unique position because of where I've come from and where I am now to be a bridge in those spaces, to be a safe place for people to practice, to be like, when you make a mistake, just correct yourself and move on. Like it's okay.
Yeah.
And if somebody is like actively upset with you, please know it's not about you. It's about the 1001 other times people intentionally disrespected them, and that core wounding is being activated
Yeah.
because they already at some point feel like they don't belong in the room, and they're looking for a confirmation of that fact because that's where they're at right now.
Right.
And that was me.
Yeah.
It's not anymore.
Past version.
Most days. There's still some days because I'm a human.
Of course, of course. So I just got confirmation while you were sharing shivers. I was just call it confirmation. But so when are you writing your book?
Okay, until recently, I kept trying to write this book, and it was like not the right book. It was absolutely not the right book to write. And now that I've taught Inclusion Illusion twice live, I'm like, okay, this is actually the book that's been trying to be birthed in me, and I didn't know how to frame it. It's ongoing. I have a little thing of butcher paper with like post-its on it on my door. I think I need a writer's retreat with some other people.
I have somebody for you I can refer you to.
Sweet. Because I feel like I just need someone who like believes that I know how to write, and I just need help to like scope it all in. Because I took creative writing. I know how to write a book, but I'm like, but I have 12 books in me.
Yeah. And side note, I didn't know Cheryl had a book, but I know you have a book. And I don't say that to everybody, but yeah, just as you're talking, I'm just like, yeah, you're an innovator. Yeah, of course you're a 5'1" and leaps and bounds ahead of time. And this is why we need you now more than ever.
Yeah.
Like this work is so needed, and it's so safe. It's bringing such safety to the space, which is so needed.
Ever since I was a little kid, I've always just wanted everyone to feel safe and welcome. I would always sit with the person no one was sitting with. I would always befriend the person who was prickly. I was never wanting to be friends with the popular people. Like there was nothing about, they didn't need me. They literally didn't need me. They had friends, they had status. So I was always friends with the weirdos and the misfits. And I felt more comfortable there. And now I finally get why, because we all on the other side of high school and then college and then our 30s are realizing that being popular actually sucks. We want to actually be known for who we really are.
Yeah.
And at the core of non-binary people or gender non-conforming people, that's the same. Like gender non-conforming people are also like going against the patriarchy. We're going against the boxes. We're going against colonialism. We don't want to be pigeonholed into a certain way of being and expressing ourselves because that feels stifling. And I think that women who know they're always going to be women can really relate to that. And one of the reasons non-binary people feel safe in women's spaces is because women's spaces have always been the place that welcomes the outsiders. The women's tent is always where the artists would go. Like you think about what would it have been to be alive in a Market's time and go into the tent where all the women were. You would see the eunuchs, you would see the minstrel, you would see the sculptors. Like they'd be hanging out there. They wouldn't be off doing whatever men did at that time. And it's really interesting to me, and cultures that haven't been as impacted by colonialism, that's still true. Those are still the spaces. But in modern society, women only just, and it's still being attacked, they only just got autonomy. They only just started making money. They only just started defining their own worth. They only just started being equal. They only just started all of these things. It only just started being allowed to legally gather. And so, of course, it feels threatening to have someone else come in and be like, this place isn't safe for me. What do you mean? Do you know that we weren't allowed to have bank accounts? Like the year my wife was born was the year her mom was allowed to have a bank account in her own name without her husband.
Wow.
That has only been in the last 50 years.
Yeah.
So, of course, it feels threatening to have people carve even more space out. But human rights and belonging isn't a pie. It's infinite. And then when we can start to think of it as infinite, the fear just dissolves, and it's really beautiful to watch it happen.
Wow, profound. I love this. Okay, you mentioned your program, so are you launching that soon? Or
Inclusion, yeah. And so Inclusion Illusion is open right now. You can actually opt in. I have ongoing enrollment. So what I do is I run it live every couple of months, but I have an ongoing Facebook group with the previous live recording of the calls. And you get 4 weeks inside of the group so that you can digest, ask questions, practice. But my favorite part is on day 3, which I'm actually doing in like 4 days. I don't know when this episode's going to air, but on March 30th, and then I'll do it again. I can't remember, time's made up, in May. I'm like, whatever. 8 to 9 weeks from now, I'll run it again. But on day 3, I do a live audit. So anyone who's brave enough, they can bring up their existing web copy, their existing social media posts, and I show them all the ways they're already being super inclusive and accessible to their audience. And then I give them like suggestions on how to just take out the qualifiers. Like, just take them out. We don't have to be like, hey guys, we could just be like, hi.
Yes,
We don't have to
totally.
be like, what's up, ladies? We can just be like, and today we're gonna blah blah blah.
100%. I have a tendency to say I go hi GF, which is girlfriend. That's just something I do. So now I know that's not inclusive. I've known that. So it's like saying Megan. Like I've been saying that my entire forever.
Yeah.
So yeah. So I love that you bring that to the awareness.
There's other ways that we use qualifiers that we don't even think about that have nothing to do with anything. But so in a group setting, when you're at like a big yatada event, so recently I just ran an inclusivity center at a 700 person event in town. And normally people get up and they go, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm like, and everybody else. Or we could just say distinguished guests. We don't have to put a gender. Like, we just don't. It's just so culturally baked in.
Yeah.
And I wish that more gender nonconforming people would have grace for the people who aren't intentionally trying to harm them. It's like most of us speak on autopilot.
Yeah. 100%.
Most of the time. So if we can practice in our written word, it will eventually make it to our speech patterns. And vice versa, if I can allow grace for people who are a work in progress and be like, oh, by the way, I just used they them. So I'll correct someone like 3 times and then I'll just not.
Right.
Like, I'm just, okay, just moving on. Right. I used to correct myself in Zoom calls all the time. And now I'm just like, you know what? Is this really the most important thing to bring up right now? Like, people are talking about how they're divorcing their spouse, their entire life is falling apart, and I'm dysregulated because they use the wrong word for me when they don't know me. And I might be the only trans adjacent person that they know. Like, it just felt really judgmental to me.
Yeah.
And it's okay if someone else is, that's where they're at. That's where their level of safety is. That's fine. You do you. I'm not here for those people. I'm here for the people who like love to live in the liminal space, in the gray area, and the what if rules are made up? Because they are.
Totally are. Oh, this has just been such a golden nugget conversation. And I can't thank you enough for the work that you do. Truly, you're making a huge difference and cultivating a deep sense of safety for those that are trying and perhaps haven't completely embodied it yet.
Yeah. So if anyone's listening to this episode and you want to practice pronouns, come find me.
Yeah.
I will help you.
100%.
Absolutely.
So with that, how can people learn more about you, connect with you, work with you?
Okay, so part of my flavor of autism is I have my phone in my hand all of the time, even when I should probably be sleeping. I'm hyperverbal, so I'm hyperlexic. Word salad is my bread and butter. So I love being on the internet because face-to-face social interaction is usually pretty hard for me. So I'm at the Cheryl Folland on Instagram and YouTube. I tried to make all of my social media have the same handle to make it so easy. If you follow me on TikTok, I'll probably forget you exist because it's just overstimulating for me and I forget to go on there. And so Instagram threads is for all of my unhinged thoughts. If you want to know what I really think, brace yourself. That's one place that I hang out. And then my website, cherylfallen.ca, I can give you the actual proper link. It'll be linked somewhere because, again, word salad. I niche it all down and slash this. But all of my links are on my Instagram profile at any given time. And I'm very good at managing my boundaries. So I won't answer you if I don't want to. You're like not bothering me, I promise.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Okay, one last question. So, for those that are feeling like they want to quit or throw in the towel, what is a message of hope that you can offer them?
Oh my goodness. We all want to throw in the towel at least once every day. It is normal during the current times, especially, to be overwhelmed. That is normal. I promise you're not broken, you're not alone, and it's okay to crumble because it's just one moment, like it's just one day. You got it. You can do it. And if you need a pep talk or a salty like solidarity moment, come find me.
Love it. Thank you so much. It's just been such an honor to be here with you. And I know the Dropped In community is going to soak this one up.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Most people think scaling is about doing more strategy, more hours, more effort. Your success isn't about how hard you work. It's about how well your nervous system can hold what you're building. If your body is stuck in survival mode, no strategy in the world will make scaling feel sustainable. You'll stay in the cycle of overthinking, self-sabotaging, pushing harder while getting nowhere. Not because you don't know what to do, but because your system isn't wired to receive what you're working for. That's why I created the Inner Pharmacy Playbook. 143 power pages of real, high-level strategy to regulate your nervous system, rewire resistance, and finally step into momentum that sticks. Because you weren't meant to build your empire through exhaustion. You were meant to build it with ease, clarity, and power. And that starts here. Go to the show notes and grab your copy of the Inner Pharmacy Playbook, because the next level of your business is not about grinding harder. It's about becoming the version of you who can hold it all.